dork, ancient crafts, unintentionally intense yarn chicken? That's just some of the highlights from this silly project in the swirl and colorway of Candy Cane. I am picking up my knot binding needle again and have acquired some nice and thick wool yarn to show you the first stitch I ever learned. If you are unfamiliar, knot binding is an old craft where instead of a series of loops that can unravel, such as in knitting or crochet, you instead create knots by going all the way through your loops, working with a finite amount of yarn that you need to add on to as you go. A lot of the stitches are really thick and use a lot of yarn, making them really nice and toasty warm. We start out with some loops. Some make a figure 8, I made a loose knot. One goes over your thumb and the rest behind it. You know I'm not very good at tutorials, but for this one we just want to pick up the 2 last stitches behind the thumb, pass them through the thumb loop and under the working thread. Our stitch then becomes the new thumb loop and the old thumb loop passes behind to become the most recent previous stitch. Good luck. I don't really know if this is encouraging or not, but the most difficult part of knot binding is starting. Once we connect our stitches to the previous row, things get a lot easier. To make a continuous stripe, I am starting a second set of stitches in white. I think this is a really fun feature that you can do with one stitch at a time techniques like knot binding and crochet. No seam stripes. These 2 rows of red and white will keep chasing each other until the end of the hat. When we need to add more yarn to our needle, I use spit splicing, which is where we split our end yarn, gently reconnect with the source yarn, and use the moisture of our saliva to help felt the ends between our hands. This is the main reason why 100% untreated wool yarn works best for knot binding. If it is labeled as superwash or machine washable, it has a very thin layer of plastic coating each wool fiber, which makes felting like this much harder. Fear not though. If spit splicing is distasteful for you, you can always make do with a cup of water to wet your fingers instead. My clumsy self would probably knock it over though, and I really don't mind. I will wash and block the garment at the end anyway. Once our string of stitches is long enough, we can connect to the beginning to form a loop. I have a nice thick yarn, so I am picking up a single stitch from the preceding row while still passing my needle through the 2 previous stitches and my thumb loop. I am not great with knot binding notation, but I think that makes this a 1 + 2. For the 1 stitch in the previous row and the 2 for the stitches behind the thumb, which should make this mum stitch? Maybe? I'm sorry. I am just so bad with names that don't connect to what a thing or technique is. Like in knot binding, stitches are commonly named for where they were found, often a Viking Age or Iron Age dig site. So you'll get Oslo stitch, Mummen stitch, York stitch, and my brain just cannot. This was even worse in organic chemistry when we were trying to learn the names of various chemical reactions like Suzuki coupling, Wolff-Kishner reduction, and Friedel-Crafts alkylation. And I mean, I completely understand and respect that the scientists who discovered the reaction want due credit and get the reaction named after them. But my goodness, my brain sees that sort of thing and just short circuits. Please give me names that say exactly what they are right off the bat. Beautiful names like backstitch, hemming stitch, or ester pyrolysis. Please give me something to attach the association to. So yeah, to the more technical nullbinders out there, I apologize if I messed up the name again, but I think this is the Mammenstitch. I also think this is a reasonably achievable beginner project. Now, hear me out, because I am the kind of person who will jump straight into the intermediate or advanced project if that is what I really want to make, so maybe don't take advice from me as to the difficulty level of something. But hats are so forgiving. It's fairly small, you don't have to mirror anything like with mittens or socks, and you could always wait for the candy cane stripe until later and stick to a single string of stitches. Speaking of stitches, once we have a comfortable headband size, I start with the decreases. I am going for a silly pointy hat, so I'll do 3 to 4 decreases around, which is just grabbing 2 stitches from the previous row instead of 1. It seems like it won't make a difference in the beginning, but just stick with it. Be prepared that null binding will use a lot of yarn though. Like a lot of yarn. I mean, I thought a ball of yarn of either color was going to be more than plenty for this project. So how did I end up playing the worst game of Yarn Chicken ever, where I didn't buy more than one of each color because it was supposed to be plenty? To have any hope of survival, it is imperative that we continue as normal. Do not let the yarn sense your fear. And with less than 2 meters of red yarn to go, which in null binding terms is barely anything at all, I cannot believe we got away from that one unscathed. That probably used up the rest of my luck for this year. Now, all our new friend needs is a good warm bath in some mild wool-friendly soap. I thought she was going to be rigid enough to stand up on her own, but no such luck. The floppy look is a vibe though. It's giving even more silly and goofy than before, which I think is always a good thing during these darkest months of the year in these parts of the Northern Hemisphere. the stripes add a whimsy that is just giving me life, while the bright red is making me feel like a good old Norwegian nisse. And while the specific singular term, nissen, is associated with our modern-day Santa, the tiny supernatural Norwegian nisse, who often lived in barn and stable and could either protect or do harm depending on how you treated them, are a lot older than that.